Alrighty, hello and welcome everybody to today's Smart Panel. Thank you for joining. Retailers 2025 is approaching. Are you ready? With Black Friday and holiday shopping around the corner, a year that was impacted greatly by the shift to AI, and the end of 2024 just a bit over a month away, well, it's likely that your minds are now set to strategize and plan ahead for your retail growth and success in 2025. If that's the case, you are in good hands today. I'm sure you are all eager to get started, so why don't we get a quick bit of housekeeping out of the way, and then we will have our speakers on stage with us here. First and foremost, my name is Mackenzie Puddesy. I am your moderator today from Smart Brief, and I'm very glad to be here for the panel. So I'm just going to give you all a warm welcome. First and foremost, welcome here, welcome here. Next, I want to bring your attention to the the questions section of your audience console. This is the best place to get involved, get interactive, give us all your questions, insights, and ideas. And if this is your first time here today, well, why don't you go ahead, check that section out now and send in a quick hello, hi, hola, bonjour, aloha, or whatever greeting you would like to send through to the community here with you today. A quick side note, that window is also the best place to reach out if you have any problems seeing the videos today, as in the live video feed, our audio or slides, and a quick refresh is probably going to fix all of those issues with the tech gremlins coming in and giving you trouble. But if not, you can send us a message in there and we will be there to help. The next thing I want to point out, nested in the same window of your audience console there, is the Handouts tab. This is going to be a great place for you to get some materials, some follow-ups here from our teams that are sponsoring today. And just a quick overview, you've got the Placer AI two-pager product overview. Placer AI is the leader in location analytics, and this will cover that Placer is the most advanced location intelligence solution describing physical locations, the people that interact with them, and the markets they inhabit. So check that out. Really awesome resource there to get a sense about Placer and to follow up after this. There's also a link to bigcommerce.com where you can book a demo or access their videos to learn more. And finally, you can also link to the ebook by SearchSpring. This is titled Browse to Buy, the Generative Discovery Advantage in E-commerce, and it is covering that you should stop losing sales, transform browsing into buying. So again, those three are all nested there in the Handouts tab, and you definitely do not want to sleep on those. They'll be a perfect way to follow up on today's panel discussion. And if this wasn't enough of a sweet giveaway, all this great information, well, we also have a $250 Amazon gift card up for grabs at the end of our webinar. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize, and all winners must meet our prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, well, you can find those full T's and C's also linked in the Handouts tab as well. Okay, well, that is it for the housekeeping. So I would say we are ready to start our webinar. I want to give a quick thanks to our sponsors today. We have got sponsors BigCommerce, Placer AI, and SearchSpring. Big thanks for making them possible and making this information accessible to all of us and to all of you here today. And with that, I'm excited to have two fantastic panelists on today from both Placer AI and SearchSpring. First up, we have J.R. Hodavi, who is the head of analytical research over at Placer AI. And we have Miles Tinsley, who is the VP of sales over at SearchSpring. Gentlemen, welcome to the stage. So great to have you here today.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Well, retailers are once again emerging from a year of proving their resilience, embracing new technologies, and adapting to customer needs and expectations. But as 2025 quickly approaches, it is time to shift our focus forward to what retail will look like in the coming year. What role will innovation play? How will technology shape retailers and consumer behavior? And how will data impact decision-making? Today, we will take a closer look at retail's path in 2025, and our experts will offer actionable insights to help you better run your business. So let's get started. To set the stage, RJ, what were the most important retail trends in 2024, and how do you see those trends shaping up this next year?
Yeah, thanks. And Great question to lead off here. It's interesting as I think back to the beginning of the year here. I think what happens above all, I think it's been a big year in terms of technology adoption, retailers looking to new platforms, new ways of doing things. At the end of the day, it really comes back to two things. And I think the first is value. We still remain very much a deal-driven consumer environment where people are looking to stretch their household budgets. As a result, they are looking for value. We see it across a lot of categories, whether that's food retail, whether that's discretionary categories. It really comes down to, am I getting the most value for whatever product it is or product or service I'm doing? But I think where it gets really interesting and where it dovetails and intersects with the technology aspect is it's more than just the lowest price. Certainly that is a driver that is really driving people in the stores. But I think what it really comes down to is innovative value. Am I getting something at a competitive price, but something unique, something different, something that I feel like I'm getting the maximum value for? And that's really comes down to innovation more than anything else. If you think back the last couple of years, there's really not been a normal year since before the pandemic. And because there's been so many things that retailers are dealing with, all of a sudden this idea that innovation has kind of been a lost art for a lot of retailers, focused on changing strategies, focusing on new formats, focusing on other things. Product innovation's taken a back seat in a lot of cases. But at the same time, I think it's those retailers that really did focus on both the value component and innovation have really stood out above others. I think groups like Trader Joe's, some of the off-price retail channel really kind of stand out in that category. And so I think where this dovetails with technology is there are some technologies, whether it be AI focused or others, that are starting to help out from an innovation standpoint. There's also elements that are helping from a consumer experience standpoint. But innovative value is really, if I had to go back and look at one phrase that sums up 2024, those chains, those retailers, those restaurants, anybody who's in the retail sector, if you can impart disruptive or innovative value, that is what's connecting the consumers right now.
All right. Yeah, no, that's a great way to set the stage. Some great insights there. And well, all of you out there in the audience, I kind of want to see what you think. So I've got a poll up here for you. You can only pick one answer. And the question at hand is, what will be the most important trend to watch in 2025? So we've set the stage for last year. What are we going to see? Personalization and hyper-personalization, AI automation, customer experience, data analytics, search and discovery, social shopping, or something else? And while the audience is going through and answering the poll, Miles, I would love to kind of get a sense of which of these you see as the most important trend or trends as we look into this next year.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me. Listen, every one of these trends have a prominent seat at the table, and every one of these will continue to push forward in 2025 and beyond. But, I think personally, I'm most excited about social shopping. And I truly just think, with the rise of TikTok as an example, we all know how that's, changed a lot of lives over the last few years. But I think it's really reshaping how people are discovering and buying products through the power of community and technology. And when I look at social shopping, I look at a couple of different things. Number one, I look at shoppable content integration. We've seen the platforms like TikTok and how customers are able to easily go in, shop directly from the post, shop directly from stories and videos. I think you'll continue to see these integrations be more sophisticated. We've already seen some of that sophistication, but just offering a much more smoother shopping experience, one-click purchase, keeping users on site without getting distracted through, for individual posts or live streams or UGC posts, and being able to have consumers purchase right on site. I think the next thing within social shopping you'll see is a lot of live shopping and real-time engagement. Again, like it's the excitement and kind of the FOMO of these events, right? Where we've seen how popular these are in Asia, and I truly think it's a global phenomenon, and we've already seen a lot of trends in that in the US. But you'll see brands and retailers start to collaborate and partner with celebrities and high influencers to even host these events. And so these consumers are able to get right in the same room, ask questions, see product in action, and make these real-time purchase behaviors. And I think that's going to continue to thrive on not only on those core platforms like a TikTok, Pinterest, et cetera, but also on site. And so I think both of those interactions with live shopping is going to be massive in 2025. And then the last thing that I want to highlight with social shopping is around more specifically community-driven shopping experiences, right? Like, again, you have the platforms that are very broader strokes around just a lot of different verticals. I think you start to see more niche focused shopping experiences. Like, I'm a huge golf fan, and YouTube golf and seeing celebrity or PGA players have really their own platform around own data, starting with content and the combination of content and commerce, and being able to add a shopping element to that specific vertical and those affinities and those groups of people that are very passionate about that particular vertical. Not just golf, but of course, beauty and skincare and fashion. You start to see more trends around niching down, and that'll be a huge trend in 2025.
Okay, excellent. I love that. I might have to pick your brain with some follow-ups during the Q&A, but I don't want to totally derail us. So just keep it in mind. You might have some social shopping questions coming through. But let's see what the audience thinks here. We've got percentage-wise, about 46% ranking AI automation as their top pick. Again, this was their only one selection, so I'm sure many people would have picked many. But yeah, so that takes the top rank. We've got customer experience in second rung with 22, and then social shopping and the personalization and hyper personalization kind of coming in third place there. So let's see what you guys think about that as we kind of, any surprises, anything you would highly agree or disagree with from these results from the audience here?
At least for me, I think the customer experience one, I'm excited to see that, because what we've looked at is those retailers that do really put a priority on customer experience and making that more engaging, more involved, and we really do see positive results for it. I know there's a lot of chains out there, whether it be Macy's or others, that are really putting a real big focus on that customer experience right now. So excited to see that, because I do think that is something that dovetails with the idea of innovation. It's not just innovation in product. It's not just innovation on other fronts. It's innovation in the whole experience. And so I think that is exciting to see. And I think that that's something that's been a little bit lost in retail the last couple of years. So excited to see that make a comeback. Personalization, not a surprise there too. That really has been something we've been hearing a lot more from our retailers and asking from our data. So that's another one that I'm excited to see. It is interesting, because I do think that, sometimes the needle moves too far in personalization, and sometimes you end up with a bunch of products that, even though they're local, people have not heard of. But I do think that there is an opportunity to kind of balance kind of the national brands and kind of more local and hyper localization. So excited to see those, and that dovetails nicely with what we've been hearing from retailers the last couple of months.
Nice. Okay. Excellent. And then, I mean, this will be interesting too, to see like how do big national brands also, they show up, but how do then the local players come through with some of these localization efforts that I think we'll touch on today. So, Miles, why don't we kick off these kind of round open table panel style discussion here? I mean, we're kind of already in it, but let's start with omni-channel retail and the future innovations it affords retailers. What do you think will be the biggest omni-channel trends or advancements in the year to come, and how can retailers leverage data to create personalized shopping experiences?
Yeah, no, I think the poll is spoken, but I think hyper personalization is one thing that I think is going to be one of the most thrilling advancements. I mean, we're already doing this, but it's just a continuation and a lot more discussions around it. I think that's obviously a huge push with AI, but retailers are super smart in how they are analyzing the data, and I think with the rise of AI, they're only doing it faster and at scale, and it really, really helps create these seamless, more individualized shopping experiences that blend both the online and the offline. From the offline perspective, I was speaking to a brand that they might have different categories that they're selling to, but they do pop-up shops for individualized segments within their customer base. And I thought that was very unique on how to personalize even an offline perspective. And same thing with online, is using really powerful tailored recommendations from your smartphone to your desktop, all the way down to offline. So you'll start to see a lot more discussions around how to use hyper personalization within your tech stack. And I think the next piece is just another continuation of, we've heard this before, but AR and VR. It's a fun way to shop, and it brings a very innovative way to bring out a very powerful interactive shopping experience where consumers tell their friends how that shopping experience went. You'll continue to see a rise in this. And it's really redefining how people are engaging with products, whether that's, visually, looking at, how a couch fits within your living room, or virtually trying on clothes and makeup. So that's going to continue to be a lot more fun. And I think retailers and brands that are adapting that technology and testing that technology, they're ahead of the curve, ahead of the competition, because people really, really do enjoy that sort of shopping experience. And then the other one that I think is really important that people may overlook is sustainability focused solutions. And I think when you look at, brands or customers becoming more eco-conscious in general, you want the brands and retailers to be the same way, whether that's, things like smarter logistics and green delivery, all the way down to just opening up their supply chain and their COGS to the individual consumer, so they really understand, the entire journey to path to purchase. And I think that's really important for retailers to start adopting if they haven't already, or to start really adapting that into their 2025 plan.
Okay, I like that. Some AR, VR, some of these pop-ups and integrating that, and then sustainability efforts. So, RJ, what would you add to that? And also, what metrics should be used to measure this personalization, performance, and return? How do people know they're doing a good job?
Yeah, I thought Miles brought up a good point that it's not just the rolling out this. There's the test element that has to go with this. I mean, I think absolutely I agree with everything in terms of some of these technologies unlocking some of the experience, people talking about it, word of mouth, shine a positive light on brands, but it has to work. It can't replace, the overall experience. These things have to work. You have to test to make sure they absolutely work and work seamlessly through the overall shopping process. That's one way. The fastest way to lose customers is if you have an implemented technology, it doesn't work the way the consumer, it isn't seamless. That can be a detriment to your brand. So you brought up a good point on that one. In terms of metrics and checking like this, I mean, personalization. I mean, I think it really comes down just to the basics here. I mean, I think this has been an interesting year looking at visitation trends across, really a lot of retail categories. What we're seeing is that people are visiting a wider number of physical stores than they ever have, particularly in grocery, but we're seeing it in other categories as well. People are willing to, hey, I know I'm going to get a deal here. I'm going to go shop there. What that's done is put downward pressure on units per transaction as well as dwell time. People are doing more research ahead of time. People know what they want when they go right there or go to the store. And so I think it's kind of interesting to look. We're seeing this evolution in consumer behavior. So if I'm looking at personalization, hyper-localization is kind of one of the things that differentiates my experience, my assortment. I really think it comes down to, am I driving positive visitation trends? Am I seeing particularly visit frequency? That's the bigger thing, is once I got somebody in the door, are they coming back? Did they have that positive experience? Was that personalized experience really worthwhile to them? Do I start to see that visitation trends, continue to on an upward trajectory in terms of frequency? Other things that we look at too. I mean, what is the size of the trade area? Are you pulling in from a wider trade area? Are you seeing demographic trends change? Is that hyper personalized assortment drawing a different audience than you typically would have? So a lot of things that you can kind of use to calibrate that effort and that experience. I think those are the kind of things that we, at least when we work with retail customers, on their hyper personalization platform or plans, that's usually the thing that we kind of monitor, is kind of, what did this do to behavior? What did they do to my audience? And is it sustainable over time?
Yeah, and then not to be overly salesy, but in terms of like Placer AI, if someone's not thinking about this location tracking in terms of getting all these metrics and data, like how do they start that journey?
Yeah, I mean, if it's our data, if it's somebody else's data, I mean, I think in this day and age, location data is kind of a table stakes for a lot of retailers at this point. Really understanding, in a lot of ways, I mean, it's replicating what we saw with online commerce. I mean, when we caught online commerce, we had monthly active users, we had churn, we had lifetime value, all these new metrics that we had to get accustomed to in the early 2000s. Now all of a sudden we can replicate that and understand that at the physical store location and really understand behavior on that level. And then when you bring it all together, that's where some really powerful insights come together. So, if you aren't using some sort of location-based data, I encourage you to look at it. I think there's a lot of value in it, but it also has to be married with other data sets. I think that's where the real unlock happens. There's so many great data sets out there in the retail and commerce space that when you work them all together, some powerful insights that can get unlocked and really drive positive outcomes for your business.
Awesome. Before we move on to some kind of like technology evolutions here, I've noticed a trend personally in that like big brands have done these kind of experiential pop-ups, including things like Pepsi, KFC, things like that, and people will come and there'll be food pop-ups and photo opportunities and merch and things. So, as we've kind of come out of the pandemic, and obviously there's a huge focus on online shopping, is this something? As you guys have mentioned, these more in-person experiences, is this kind of like entertainment, one-off, immersive experience something you're expecting to see more of in 2025, or are retailers looking to just find other ways to get people in store on a more consistent basis? And I think either of you can jump in on this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I personally think that this will continue to grow in 2025 and beyond. I think when you look at pop-ups, it's a great way to get your customers together and talking, and it's a great way to continue to build your community. There's nothing more powerful than an owned audience, and I think getting your audience in person in real life, whether that's connecting with a big influencer or a celebrity, or being able to touch and feel your products, and just getting close interactions with them, there's nothing more powerful than that, right? I think you'll continue to see ways that brands can test and just do different things with that audience, and either taking a trip together or just doing regular pop-ups on a particular new launch of products. And it's, think of it as a Kickstarter, but in real life. And I think that's important to see. And so I absolutely think it's going to be a big trend moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think, when we go back to kind of what was the key themes in 2024, talked about value and innovation. Well, these pop-ups a lot of times are the innovation. They're the new products that are coming to market. They're the unique things that you can't get anywhere else. They're that innovative experience that you can have with a celebrity or unique product or brand. So I think that really accomplishes that. So you kind of have that from the retailer or the brand perspective, but there's also a commercial real estate aspect to this too. A lot of times these pop-ups are at malls. They drive substantial traffic to the mall with these pop-up stores, and generally a different audience than you typically would see at that. So it's not only beneficial to the retailers and the brands themselves, but there's a lot of benefits to the commercial real estate side of this too. The mall owner and operators are certainly loving this idea that they can bring in unique audience and then really showcase. And ideally, those consumers are going to stick around and see what else that mall has to offer. So I think that this is something that's absolutely here to stay. We're seeing a lot of positive results from if done right. I mean, it can't be something that you can only half-ass and just not put a lot of thought into it. But the ones who've really put some innovation behind it, seen some really exciting results from them.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that, you two. Okay, so we're going to move into how is technology changing the way retailers think about commerce, and how can technology help make growth more simple? How can having the right tools improve customer retention? I'll shoot this over to you, RJ.
It's a great question. And I mean, again, it kind of just having the data sets that, you kind of need for table stakes at this point, just to for just operational. I mean, I think there's elements that we've talked a lot about the customer experience, the, kind of the merchandise, kind of the unique shopping, personalization. I mean, I think that's all coming with the data as well. But if you think even broader about, how the different elements of retailing all work together, I mean, I've seen some really exciting things on the AI front in terms of employee training and retention, particularly for specialized categories. If there's an AI assistant that you can have with your employees to answer questions and kind of better engage with your consumers in a store, I think that's going to be a really powerful part of this. Overall equation. I think that's something that's really exciting to see, and really starting to see some great results from that. Obviously, from other aspects of running a retail operation, some really cool things in terms of marketing. Miles mentioned some of the things he's seeing within the store in terms of product showcasing, and really kind of falls under that retail media umbrella. I think that's kind of starting to be some really exciting things. Effectively, we're in an environment where over the last couple of years, it has gotten more expensive to operate stores. Rising costs for labor, raising costs for rent. A lot of times product costs have gone up. You're looking to maximize return on your store asset right now, but there are tools that can help you out with that. And a lot of things we're talking about that today can absolutely help you on that front. So I think, and a lot of the things that we talked about, a lot of the things on the poll are just on the very early stages. And so I think we're going to see a lot of evolution, and very quickly in a lot of cases too, of these new technologies to really kind of really make us better, more efficient retailers across a lot of different functions.
Oh, that's great. That's exciting. You mentioned a little bit about AI. I'm going to kind of push this over to Miles, but Miles, how can AI and automation help retailers and brands better understand their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, great question. There's no one right answer here. I mean, I'm going to throw out a couple, and obviously, would love to get everybody's feedback. But the first one that I've had personal interaction with is just better and more seamless, efficient interactions. For an example, we're great partners with companies like Gorgeous or Sienna around chatbots and virtual assistants. Like when you think about
Mm,
shopping online, you see the pop. If you have a general support question, typically you read an FAQ, or you might want to talk to a chatbot around the product, or where's my order. But then, like, if you're shopping at nighttime, after the kids go to bed, there's no one available, and you shoot an email and you'll get an email in the morning. Well, that's a very poor shopping experience. With the power of analyzing the data at scale as fast as AI can, and how much data they can analyze, you're able to implement a lot of automation around, not only your general support, being able to ask those questions in real time and get an answer in real time, but I think it's also around personalized shopping experience, and almost like as a concierge. If you have a very specific question about a product, or if you're buying a TV and really want to understand the dimensions and the width, being able to get those answers in real time when people are actually shopping, I think is going to really, really help retailers and brands have higher conversion rates. That's something that I've seen over the last maybe year and a half. There's still a lot of other retailers that we're talking to that haven't really introduced this sort of technology, and it's there and it's ready. And I think you'll start to see more of that in the following years. And then it goes back to, customer segmentation using AI. And I think, we have kind of these broad elements of segmentations that we typically are used to using, but using AI, we can really get nimble and hyper granular on the customer segments, and being able to target the customer at the right time. And we'll see continuation of that around new product launches, looking at past behavior, purchasing behaviors, and no matter if it's recency, frequency, and monetary value that we've used in the past, it's just getting more powerful. And then I guess with that, the last thing is the predictive side of the analytics. And so seeing that past data, analyzing at scale, being able to understand what future, even current sentiments of social patterns, like what's a big trending product that's going viral. This goes all the way up to senior leadership to be able to make those quick decisions in real time, that are strategically, for the growth of the brand or growth of the retailer. And I think, we're going to see more of that, for years to come. So it's a lot of fun to kind of understand how brands are talking about it, when they want to implement, what technology they want to implement it in. And it's something interesting to see, per type of brand. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I might add
very
something to that too. I think it's really comes down to the underlying data here. Your AI is only as good as the underlying data that you're using, and you don't want to
Yeah.
risk the performance or the experience that a customer has if you've got bad data, and that that automated email that goes out and doesn't connect to that consumer, or markets a product that clearly isn't for that end user. So that's really kind of the state that I see, is that we're still at the point. I think you're absolutely right. The tools are there, but you're only as good as the data that you're using for it, and the many of the data sources that you can bring together to really stitch that mosaic to make that experience worthwhile, both digital and in store, is really important. And I think we're still at that point. I think right now to the point earlier about fear of missing out. I think we're kind of at that stage with AI. There's people. We need to have AI just so that it proves we're doing it. But it really comes down to how that underlying data is structured and how it's all put together. I think that's kind of the stage where we really kind of separate winners from losers in 2025. The ones who kind of organize that, got data ready to go. So.
That's an interesting comment. I completely agree, and I think the fear of missing out is real. And in some ways, I'm sure some companies are like way behind and feel way behind. But at the same time, you know, the mass use of AI and Gen AI for retail and for a lot of things, it's still very early. So,
Very
I
much
think
so.
rather
Yeah.
than people jumping in panic mode, like you said, make sure you get good data in, start with some smaller projects, some ways to get it started, and then you'll be able to grow on that. Miles, okay. Since you're all about search, how can advanced search technologies reduce friction and boost customer conversion? What's ahead for visual search?
There's a lot to add here, and a lot of what we already discussed all applies to search technology. And if the looks of Google and the looks of Amazon and ChatGPT, how can we have that same sort of conversational tone within our search technology on site? And I think it starts with just a better, more smarter, intent-based search. Is like we are. When consumers are on site, it's not just about matching particular keywords. It's really understanding the intent and being able to grasp truly the meaning behind their query. And I think with the likes of NLP or natural language processing, it's really going to help kind of refine how we're presenting product to them, and kind of goes back into the personalization side of it. Is adding a layer of personalization with that NLP, is being able to look at past behavior or preferences, browsing history, to be able to apply the right recommendations within those search queries. And so we're not just understanding the intent, but we're personalizing that intent with the right results at the right time. And again, that's not just through a search bar at the top. That's through category pages, or that's also through a chat bot, what I mentioned earlier around using the data, which is super, super important. I think you'll see more of that within search. And then, visual search is again, something that people are love to use, or we're adopting to it. I think thanks to the platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where people are consistently, looking at images and videos, being able to easily use visual search to look at a living room and being able to see the products down to the individual lamp or the rug. I think that's very, very important and powerful as an interactivity shopping tool for consumer behavior and what they're looking for. And then same thing with voice search. We already have this in our household from Alexa, and being able to adapt that on site in real time creates a much more true conversation that you're having, and really understanding the sentiment of what they're looking for. And that's something that we'll continue to see.
Okay, excellent. RJ, let's keep talking about search here. I want to ask, how do you think personalized search algorithms and other AI-driven technologies improve the customer shopping experience? And more importantly, how can retailers balance these technological advancements with ensuring data is protected and also building that trust with customers? It's like, get to know me, but don't be spooky about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a loaded question here, but I think we can take and dissect. I mean, it really comes down to that too, is that, in this day and age, consumers are willing to tolerate, certain things if it improves their experience, if you're getting something out of it, if it doesn't come across as, too invasive. I think consumers are willing to, that experience is kind of seamless. It doesn't feel like it's infringing. It's more like, it's more of a kind of situation where, based on prior purchases, or this is the product we think you like, as opposed to, we know you purchased this, and we think this would be like. There's subtleties to it, I guess, is the best way to put it. And I think there is a way to enhance the overall kind of algorithm with it in terms of search and getting what people are looking for. And again, as Miles pointed out, getting behind the intent. I think that really is the goal here. But there also is a way to kind of toe that fine line between improving the experience and making it too invasive. It's something that I honestly think is one of the big hurdles as we kind of look to the next year here. But I think, as to your point, this is early stage. I think we will get better and better with it and be able to make that experience more worthwhile, drive conversion, drive frequency. Because of that, I think we'll continue to see it. And again, I think the best way to do it is, be as upfront as you can with things, or make it, again, test it to make sure it really, really works. Don't roll out a technology until it's really ready to go. I think is probably the best way in terms of avoiding security and privacy, and, or making it an unpleasant experience for consumers is really kind of the most important thing.
All right. And then, Miles, I'm going to shift the conversation a bit. So anything you want to add to that before I do that?
He pretty much summed it up, and that I think he's spot on. I think if you look at kind of the core data and the infrastructure of how we're ingesting data to make these buying decisions is going to be super, super important. I think it was spot on.
Okay. All right. So RJ, another question for you. Let's talk location intelligence. How would you advise retailers to use location data to optimize their physical and digital footprints? And also, how do you see location-based insights helping retailers drive sales and build customer loyalty? I guess We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but let's dive in deeper, get into the nitty gritty.
Sure. I mean, when we work with retailers, and at this point we work with several hundred retailers, both physical and digital, for a lot of different purposes. I think kind of the first and foremost that we're seeing is kind of more strategy and consumer insights. I think a lot of retailers have a pretty good feel for what's going on and who's coming into their stores, but there's other elements that location-based data can tell you. Again, kind of what I mentioned earlier about replicating the world of online and digital commerce, the key KPIs that we look at, looking at things like conversion and churn and lifetime value, we can start to look at that not only for, your retail locations. We know the number of visitors, the number of transactions. We can look at conversion is working. Are certain things driving that? We can look at things like lifetime value with that visitor frequency. We can look at, overall trade areas. So I think, and not only for your stores, location-based platforms like Placer and others can certainly open up the ability to look at your competitors and understand how behavior may be changing and how a ripple effect. If you introduce a hot product, where did you steal visitation share from? Did that change behavior at other retailers? This past year, I mentioned, value is so key. We saw a lot of analysis from our customers looking at pricing decisions. What happened when they raised the price or their competitor raised the price? What did that do to visitation trends? So I think that's one way. It's just kind of consumer insights and strategy would be the first. There's other things too, obviously, in terms of real estate, using location-based data to pick not only the markets, but also sites within those markets where it kind of matches the performance of your best performing stores. That's certainly things we see. Marketing too is something I think that maybe sometimes it gets a little bit overlooked with location-based data, but certainly if you're trying to target a certain audience with a new product or new promotion, certainly location-based data can certainly help with that. And, for social media campaigns or other digital campaigns, that's certainly something that's there. But also physical advertising and marketing too, billboards placement, things like that, or even mailers, physical mailers. I mean, there's still some brands have had great success with that as well. So it's kind of a run of a lot of different features, but it really comes down to consumer insights, best retail locations, and marketing optimization. But every day it seems like a retailer is coming up with another way to use location based data to really optimize the things are going. And I think that all ties nicely into the hyper localization, the other things that a lot of retailers are doing this day and age to really make the most of your experience, and really tailoring that assortment for whatever market it might be, and really trying to make the most and really bring consumers back into stores.
Really nice, really nice. Yeah, and I think this has been an interesting conversation around, like how do we kind of tie together our digital lives with our physical lives and the digital spaces we inhabit and the physical ones. So really cool. Thank you for opening that up. And I think we'll probably have some questions about that. But before we move to the Q&A, retailers need to try and prepare themselves for unknown challenges to come. And with that, Miles, based on the conversation today, what would you say, like kind of 2 to 3 key takeaways the audience should leave here with today to make them more ready and more resilient for 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the common theme here is like keep your strategies rooted in data. RJ said a lot of great things around kind of the data infrastructure, how we're ingesting that data, and I think there's a couple. I think number one, it's continue to invest in personalization and data-driven insights. Like it's not really a nice to have anymore, right? It's a key to stay competitive. Investing in technologies, investing in the education around AI and automation to learn your data. Data can be scary, especially if you're coming in maybe from, another company and you're seeing a lot of different things and a lot of different reporting, and it's kind of scary. Even from my particular role in sales, there's a lot of data in our CRM. It's getting down to the root understanding of lost opportunities, as an example. Same thing with e-commerce is really getting into understanding and investing that, using certain tools and technologies to really harness that data intelligently and making creative decisions moving forward. And then again, that goes into embracing emerging technologies. Like, don't be afraid to test new technologies that are out there. Keep an eye on investments like, AR and VR, visual search, voice activated shopping. And then lastly, just stay agile and customer centric. It all comes back down to the customer experience, whether that's in person, that's digital world, making sure that you're always testing ways to have a seamless, super intuitive shopping experience. And I think that's what helps customers stay, brands and retailers thrive in 2025. But obviously, it's been going around forever. It's just continuing to adopt to new things and again, investing in and personalization and using your data wisely.
Okay. And RJ, what's your take on this? Few 2 to 3 key takeaways for 2025.
I'm gonna piggyback on a lot what Miles just said there, but I think first and foremost, the first takeaway I've had looking like this year and past years is no matter what retail category you're in, no matter what geography you operate in, consumer behavior has changed. A lot of that's pandemic driven, a lot of that's because of new technologies, and just accepting the fact that if you're doing things the way you did 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, that may be outdated, and that you need new data, new techniques, new processes, new procedures to really kind of adapt and identify to this change in consumer behavior. I think that's been something that, I mean, it seems obvious, but at the same time, a lot of times, we don't like change, and it's hard to acknowledge that this is really what's going on. So I think that's kind of the first thing, is that consumer behavior has changed. It will continue to change, and you need certain data tools to stay ahead of that. I think the next point, we've talked a lot about that too, is that don't be afraid of technology. There are things that are out there that are worth trying. There are things that will allow you to stay ahead of those changes in consumer behavior. So be on the lookout for new technologies and don't be afraid of them. But that leads to my third point, and we've talked about it several times today, is test, test, and test again. I know technology is exciting. I know AI is going to unlock a lot of cool things. But if it's not ready, if it's something that you're not ready to roll out at scale, then keep working at it. It's something that I think, there are still some big downsides to rolling out a technology before it's too early, that can have a detrimental impact on consumer experience, whether it's in store, whether it's online. I think that's a big thing, is that really make sure you have the technology down ready and not just rush to keep up with the crowd and, this fear of missing out. Make sure it's ready at this point.
I like that. Wise. Lots of good takeaways there. And I appreciate you guys letting me pick your brain thus far. So we're going to open it up to some audience questions here. I think we've got maybe 15 minutes. So again, feel free to kind of jump in. These may have a more obvious person to answer them, but as they're from the audience, this could apply to either of you. So first one up on the docket is, how will advancements in AI and AR reshape the social shopping experience in 2025?
RJ?
Miles, I think you're probably the better fit on that one to start. You're the one who trumpeted social shopping earlier. I want to hear your answer here.
Yeah, so the technology exists. It's just continuing to improve, and I think when I'm looking at like AR, VR, these technologies, as I said, it exists today. It's just continued to improve on using the data, using personalization to enhance, and then also just the adaptability. Right, consumers, it's just back in the day, my mom was scared to buy things online. It's a totally different story in today's world. Same with using these sort of technologies to help your shopping decision. Using, again, visually looking at a sofa within a living room, or you're looking at colors of makeup, whatever that is, that's going to continue to improve over time. And I think, it all comes down to the adaptability of just kind of the excitement of using the technology. I think that's going to continue to help improve the shopping experience in 2025.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that, that's a great comment, is that a lot of times the AR and VR technology right now are in retail categories that are kind of less frequent. So your home furnishing, apparel are obviously the ones that, you're not as doing it as kind of the same amount of cadence as you're doing grocery. Beauty is going to be the key one, as you mentioned. That one is kind of the key unlock for this category. I think there's been some amazing advancements. I don't think it's any surprise that has been one of the best performing retail categories the last 3 years. And I think this is a key example where we can point to where a lot of that was not, kind of making this overall, some of these technology advancements were done in the right way. They were rolled out when they were ready to be rolled out. And I think that's going to be something to see, because that category continues to be one of the early adopters with technology, and some really amazing stuff coming out of it.
Really neat. And follow-up question about social shopping. obviously, Miles, you were talking about this before, but people are buying and browsing on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and I know like Instagram and Facebook have had their kind of in-app shopping for many years now, but
Mhm.
where else are you seeing that already rolled out in a sophisticated way, and where are you expecting that to kind of be further developed in the next little bit?
Yeah, on site, right? Like again, like we're if you look at a big retailer or brand, and there's nothing wrong with this, they're just doing it different ways. It's like their audience, their super fans of their product and brand, they're going off site to
Hmm.
being able to be a part of these live experiences. And like for an example, a live shopping event, there's already incredible apps that do that. But bringing them and keeping them on site, I think that's where you kind of have that own audience, that own data that I was talking about earlier. Is that it's hard to have, either it's just gathering emails as an example, but really getting everybody and staying on site, staying in the experience. I think that's something that I'm really striving to instill in a lot of the brands and retailers that I'm talking to, is that how can we continue to improve your customer experience on site, just as much as we are continuing to adapt it on incredible shopping platforms. So I think that's something that will be a big focus and continue focus next year.
Nice. Just as we were talking about this, we had a question come in. David's asking, and I think this is actually a really good thing to ask in general. How can some of these ideas be drilled down and applied to small main street retailers? So, if you're not one of these massive companies that already has a huge social or digital presence, how do you get started? Can you leverage this? What does that look like?
I
Um,
I think
Go for
like,
it.
yeah, listen, I was actually thinking about this earlier. It's like, you could have two brands that are doing very, very well online, like even level terms in terms of revenue per year. But one team may have, one company may have 5 employees, the other may have 45 to 100 employees, right? I think it's data's AI and using Chat GPT types of technologies. It's available for one person to use, and you're really leveling the playing field here. So I don't think you have to think of this is only available for larger brands and larger budgets. This is available for SMBs. I think it's the education and the adaptability of using it and testing it, not being afraid to just dive in. But to me, it's a level playing field of competing with the larger players that are out there, and you're a much more profitable company at a smaller sort of team environment than maybe a larger team with from a profit perspective. So I think it's a level playing field, and I think it's just a matter about just educating yourself and just diving in and testing it and doing a lot of different tests.
I agree with that too. I mean, I think that your point, Miles, about leveling the playing field is spot on. I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, some of these larger organizations have, large data lakes. They have, huge data insights teams, but that doesn't prevent you from using some of these technology tools just because you're a smaller operator. It's just a matter of kind of buying in and saying, hey, I want to at least learn about this and understanding what's out there and what technologies may be appropriate. And what you're going to find too is that the technology solutions that work for some of these large retailers may not be what worked for you, but there's certainly some technology solutions for these smaller players that can help you solve the need that you have, which is going to be very different from the need that a Walmart or a large player is going to have. But there are technology solutions for small players. There's some great ones, to be honest, too, that really help out. And there's a lot of free technologies too. There's things that you don't need to break the bank on for some of these things too. There are some free resources out there in some of these technologies that can certainly help you, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. I have a somewhat related question from Trish here in the audience. She's saying, how do you get a new product in basically a new category discovered if people aren't actively searching for it because they don't know it exists? This could be a tough one. But I think to paraphrase, the question is really like, if you're launching a new product and it's maybe not what your audience is expecting or you're brand new, how do you leverage, say, AI and socials to be
Yeah,
discovered?
yeah. I think one thing it could be this is just one particular avenue, but there's a lot around the marketing side. There's a lot around the technology side, but from a technology side, my brain specifically goes towards just proper merchandising. Something that SearchSpring does really, really well. And I'm not trying to sell search bring, this is for a lot of technologies, is being able to pin products in certain categories. So even though I am searching for, particular, something, you could still have your brand new product that not a lot of people know about at the very top of the category page or the search results page. And so you're getting it exposed to your existing audience, even though they might not be searching for it. And that's going to really help you understand the data behind, are people clicking in that? Are people, what's the conversion rate around that? Are they asking questions around it in the chat bot or via email or social media? So there are ways to promote that product on site. And then of course, there's a lot of things within marketing that, from a testing environment or your super fans. And this goes down to, individual like loyal memberships or gated memberships. And some that we work with a technology called Inveterate that's very popular. Shopify is a kind of a loyal membership or basically a paid membership. So essentially super fans of brands. And within those kind of super fan of that membership, it allows you to introduce new products to a small cohort of customers that no matter what, they love your brand. And so they're open to giving you critical feedback. And I think there's a lot of those different ways from a marketing side and from a technology side that can help kind of push your product to the top. And just at the end of the day, you want feedback. And I think that's important.
I'll take it one step further too, with in terms of just the product development and go-to-market strategy here too. I mean, for a new product launch like that, typically you're going to at least have an idea, based on focus groups, who the target audience is with that. And there's a lot of great data out there to kind of help from a go-to-market strategy for these new products. A lot of the CPG brands that we work with, a lot of the large manufacturers and consumer brands, certainly will utilize, our data, we know this works really well with this particular audience, where pockets of, not only, geographies that we can find for people but are there retailers that over index to those kind of consumers? Will that help us and kind of make a more effective sales pitch to that retailer to carry that product? So I think there's a lot of tools out there. And again, what we were talking about earlier, location data, some of the search data that's out there, just table stakes in a lot of cases for these things. But makes you, and a lot of times the ROI on these, getting this data, these kind of decisions pay for themselves if you get the right, channels for distribution, the right placement, the right marketing campaign. So the big ROI that you can see on these type of decisions, the data usually is paying for itself there.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of marketers talk about, like, once you get that figured out, it's a matter of kind of like turning the tap on and off to the level that you need or you want, because once you've got that magic formula, not that it's magic per se, but once you've got it tuned in, you can be like, yeah, if we market this, we get X percentage of conversion from that. So,
and the last thing I wanted to highlight. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
The last thing I think that I've seen adopt in other brands that are testing new products is collaborations with other brands. This can be at checkout, especially around personalization. Okay, I know that this customer has these two products in the cart. I'm going to partner with another brand that has a complementary product. And so you're able to also gain access to their potential customer base. And so I think reaching out to other brands and collaborating with like-minded sort of brands that, that you might have the same sort of ideal customer profile, I think also is a very, very popular trend right now that we've seen across a lot of direct-to-consumer brands. And it's just a matter of kind of connecting those dots.
Nice. I like that a lot. And I think it ties into the community element you talked about and some of that brand building. And that's really neat. Okay, we might have just one more question here before we have to wrap. And so this one is probably more for you, RJ, but I think this is like a good kind of wrap up overview. Chad is asking, how are retail visitation trends stacking up in 2024 versus, say, 10 years ago? Personally, I know I've changed my retail shopping to almost none. So I think you probably do this on the day-to-day. What are we seeing as this shapes up?
Yeah, so point of distinction, our data, Placer data, only goes back to the beginning of 2017. So I can't quite give you the 10-year answer, but it may surprise you, because I think all of us have seen our change in consumer behavior. We've all changed our behaviors around retail. But what is actually surprising is visitation trends across most retail and most shopping malls is actually up compared to pre-pandemic levels. And I think a lot of this is because retailers have kind of changed the way they've gone about things at the in-store experience. This also plays in the fact that malls have changed their strategy. It's a lot more about the experience, entertainment, the kind of the idea of mixed use space. But again, we've seen a very deal driven consumer coming out of the pandemic as well, that are willing to shop around to more locations to get that best deal. Obviously, we continue to see online sales as a percentage of overall retail grow slightly. Obviously, there's been a bit of a correction since that spike we saw during the pandemic. But I think the idea that physical retail is dead is an outdated concept. I think the idea that bad physical retail is dead, I think that's valid. But I think a lot of retailers have been very innovative about the experience, about the assortment. And we talked about hyper localized assortment, tailoring things for your different market, having basically your customers become your advocates, influencers driving visits. There's so many things that we're seeing that get people about the in-store experience. And I think if nothing else we've learned in the last couple of years, it's really hard to have either just an online or physical. There really needs to be this omni-channel experience, and kind of both can be very complementary to each other. So it is kind of fascinating, because I would have said the same thing. I would have expected to see visitation trends down, but what we've actually seen is the opposite, that visitation trends are up for a lot of retail categories. Not everyone, compared to 7 years ago. There are some categories that have seen structural changes because of whatever it might be, but we've definitely seen overall visitation trends. And, as kind of, the state of retail and retailers get better about experience and more experiential retail, there's a lot of excitement still left in the category. So physical retail, not dead. Still a lot of things that make it exciting here.
Nice. Miles, anything you want to add?
No, that's awesome. That's great.
Beautiful. Okay, so we are pushing up against time. So finally, of course, thank you to both of you for letting us learn from you. That's been great. But any final sort of call to action if people are looking to learn more, get started with either of your teams in terms of SearchSpring or Placer AI, or just any kind of final nugget of wisdom? I know we did some key takeaways, but is there anything that's just like, if I don't say this, this is the thing. This is the thing.
No, I just want to say thanks for having us. I'm happy to answer any questions. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, and looking forward to speaking with anyone.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you are looking to, if you have questions about, not only location-based data, but other data sets that are out there, we've got a lot of free resources on Placer AI. Come check it out. We've got a lot of great content, a lot of free data that maybe is a good, stepping stone to kind of bigger picture conversations. But, ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of great data sets that are out there. At least kind of talk to, some of these groups and just kind of better understand if there's a fit for technology, for whatever data it might be or whatever technology might be. Don't be afraid. There's a lot of cool things that can make your business more efficient and more effective.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, both of you. I'm going to let you go, and we'll wrap up the webinar in a few minutes here, but it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you back soon. See you guys. I removed myself. All right. So again, we're pushing up against time. I want to give a final thank you to both RJ and Miles for taking the time today to share their insights and experience. Thank you to Placer AI, SearchSpring, and BigCommerce for sponsoring today's event, which of course allows us to bring this content to you all at no charge. And don't forget to visit the handout section. We are about to wrap, and we've got great handouts there from all three sponsors, as I mentioned at the beginning. So definitely don't sleep on those. You've only got a minute or two left to grab those, both in PDF or the links there. And with that, folks, I have one final little bit of fun before we wrap. And that is that we're going to be giving away this $250 Amazon gift card. So if you want to get started on your Black Friday shopping, some holiday buys, this is going to be great. Quick reminder that you do need to be present and live here at the webinar to win. And without further ado, the winner of today's Amazon gift card is Richard Kastner from Georgia. Richard, huge congrats. And we'll be reaching out after the webinar today to let you know how you can redeem that prize. And alrighty, well, with that, I think that wraps everything up. Once again, everybody, you will receive an email within 24 hours that will include a link to the archived event here. We invite you to view it again or pass the link along to your colleagues. And with that, we want to thank you very, very much for coming, for attending. And until next time, I'm wishing you an absolutely magical rest of your days. Take care, everybody.